Hey, in this lesson, we're gonna talk all about power chords, how to use them, how to play them, and some killer songs that you can play here today. My name's Will Ripley, and you're tuning in to Guitar Control. All right, so welcome back. I'm really stoked for this one. I love power chords. I personally use them a ton in my playing, and of course, all the rock and roll legends have been all over them for decades and decades. So I'm stoked to share all these different styles of power chords with you and how you can apply them here into your playing. And of course, we're gonna do that through playing songs. So I've got some Thin Lizzy, we've got some Joan Jett and the Blackheart, some AC/DC, and we'll see if we can squeeze in a couple more there while we're at it. So it should be a good one. If you're into this lesson, definitely grab the PDF for this lesson. You'll find the links right here on this page on how you can download that. That'll have all the chord diagrams and all the tabs, just everything that you need to go along with this lesson. So make sure you grab that and get that pulled up. And if you tuned into my last lesson, we talked about Joan Jett and the Blackhearts with I Love Rock and Roll, but we were playing it like a single note string version, which sounded like this. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but what we're gonna do here today is actually upgrade that into the full power chord version. And also, if you are just tuning in, or if you caught the last lesson, or maybe you didn't, but this is gonna be an easy one, it's gonna be attainable, but we're also going to kind of like integrate and kind of sprinkle in some pro techniques and some more advanced techniques. So right there on that intro, you know, there's like little chikas or little kind of rhythmic claps going on there just to kind of make it sound just more awesome. And so we talked a lot about those little bits in the last lesson, and we're going to integrate some of those in today's lesson too. But yeah, whether or not you caught the last lesson or you're just tuning in for this one, it will be easy, it will be attainable. And also, this is kind of like a quick and dirty overview of my program called Stairway to Strumming. And this has been a really popular, very effective course that we've been executing with our one-to-one students for years and years and years, like actually nearly 15 years with awesome results. And we have it all in a video format. It sells for $100 on my website, but we're doing a special discount right now where you can get that at over 50% off. So that's another link that you should probably check out. Grab those tabs like I was mentioning, but also check out Stairway to Strumming and claim that discount. This is kind of going to cover module 2 a little bit, and like I said, kind of in a quick and dirty way to get you going on power chords, because I love teaching power chords early on because we can get these really powerful sounds by really only using one finger or 2 fingers, and sometimes 3 fingers, but we can get some really powerful sounds by just using one finger and striking 2 strings. So why don't we go ahead and upgrade that single note version of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts' I Love Rock and Roll right out the gate here with some of these really big, powerful open string power chords. So open string power chords. What do they look like? Well, we've got one finger going on here on the second fret of the A string. But what we can do is play the low E string and that A string note on the second fret. And when you plow your right hand, your picking hand through both of those at the same time, we just get an instant kind of like rock and roll face. The devil horns goes up. You know, it's good times all around. So, and it's cool, like I've got my guitar on the bridge pickup, which really lends itself to that sound. Of course, a little distortion. And also I'm hitting the strings kind of hard. I'm not like hitting them lightly, right? I'm going through those strings and plowing my pick through those strings with some grit and some force. So those are some kind of tips right at the gate on how to kind of get more of that rock and roll sound. So what we can do is we can upgrade that sound from that kind of sound to just implementing your first finger on that fret on the A string. Okay, of course that's kind of like the We Will Rock You beat, right? Okay, so I'm kind of going like boom, boom, clap, boom, boom, clap, boom, boom, clap. Okay, so And how I'm getting the clap sound is really, really important, and that will get you that snare drum kind of effect to your guitar playing. And I'm just using a soft fist and clanging the strings into the frets. So that sound is like a metal on metal sound. It's the steel strings going into the metal frets and getting a little clang there. But the clang is nice and musical when we're getting it in the right placement with rhythm. So maybe just sit there for a second, see if you can kind of experiment with that, get the We Will Rock You beat going, and feel free to pause the video and work on that for a second, but make sure to come back. But you know what I'm saying? So we got... Okay? So once we get that going on, so that right there is what we call an open string power chord. Now you can also flatten that string down so that your first finger covers the A string and the D string at the same time. Okay, so I'm fretting that second fret on the A string and the D string, and by barring it, I'm kind of doing like this mini bar right there. So my first finger is covering those two strings. And that also sounds really good. So it kind of changes this when I'm just fretting one string into, and no worries if you can't really hear the difference there. Of course, maybe you want to just hear the difference for yourself. But I kind of just hear it as it just kind of like bulks up just like 10% more, because what we've got there is an E note, a B note, and then another E note. So it just stacks up that power chord with just a little bit more. So, and we'll talk more about that. And so, of course, with a low E and a high E, we've got an octave going on there. So we've got low E and the high E. Okay? So there's an open string power chord because, of course, we're utilizing that open string. So this is going to be an E power chord. Okay, and then we were grabbing that third fret with our low E string and moving up to an A power chord. So it's the exact same thing we were just doing, just on the set of strings closer to the floor. So we've got an A string, second fret on the next two strings. Okay, and same thing, strike with some rock and roll fury. Okay, and I'm gonna sprinkle in some pro tips just kind of as I go. In order to get some oomph into that chord and make it sound oomphy, make it sound powerful, you want to like kind of wind up, kind of like you're punching a punching bag, but you risk hitting other strings, which actually kind of sounds nice, but it kind of takes the AC/DC effect away from it, right? So what we want to do is if you sneak your thumb up just to mute that low E string. Okay, so when you hit that low E string, it should sound like that. So now what that means is I can actually strike through 4 strings, but I'm only allowing those 3 strings to ring. Okay, and I'm able to strike the strings with some rock and roll fury. Okay, and just make that chord sound nice and powerful because I'm just winding up and giving it a good little punch. So that is the first part. We got okay. So open string power chords are great. We can actually go one more down as well and do a D power chord. And it actually sounds really good when you throw that A string in there. Okay, that would technically be a D power chord with an A in the bass. That's where you see those slash chords, so it would be like a D/A. And then to do that octave, we have to change our fingers here. It's kind of like the beginning of a D chord, if you're familiar with your D chord, but without your second finger. That's a nice, big, powerful D power chord. So A string, D string are open, and then I've got the second fret of the G and the third fret of the B, and you might want to mute your low E string with your thumb. Again, the devil horns come up, the smiles come out. Like it just sounds insanely powerful, right? So that is a D power chord in a nutshell, but like I said, we're throwing in some of those pro techniques, the mute with the thumb. Okay? All right, so getting back to I Love Rock and Roll, we've got the E power chord to the A. Okay? But now that we've kind of bookmarked or bookended the whole idea of open power chords, so there's some really good classic power chords, E, A, D, and of course, and hey, speaking about AC/DC, we've got something like, okay, Back in Black intro, so that would be those chords, E, D, A. Right? It's just getting that sound. And I'm not going to go over the licks in this lesson because I want to keep this like relatively beginner. But anyways, keep on saying, getting back to Joan Jett. So I Love Rock and Roll is then going to go into a 2-finger power chord. And this is really what I love about power chords and why I teach them in Module 2 in Stairway to Strumming is because now we can just get another finger integrated. Okay, and it's a whole nother level for beginners, and maybe you're feeling this for yourself. But yeah, so now we got to get our first finger on the 2nd fret, and then our 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the D string, okay? So the power chord formula is always going to be the same. You've got your root note, and then 2 frets up and 1 string over. That's going to get you your 2nd note of the power chord. So you get your root note and your 2nd note of the power chord, okay? So again, hit that with some rock and roll fury. Okay, and now we'll get you that 3rd chord in I Love Rock and Roll. Now, just like the other ones, we can either slap that 3rd finger down to create a bar, to add in that additional B note, or you can use your pinky finger, and this is how typically I play power chords with like a 3-finger power chord version or a 3-note power chord. I always drop in my pinky. I just find I'm just able to play those notes a little bit cleaner rather than using a bar, but I'm pretty sure that there's some power chord rock stars that are using their 3rd finger to bar. So, but yeah, I always find I start sneaking in that B string note, and then it kind of, again, it's a great sounding chord. That's a B major chord, but it just kind of takes away from that rock and roll vibe that we're going for. So there's a 3-string power chord, 2-string power chord. Will get you 90% of the way there. Again, it's just adding on that 3rd note will just kind of beef it up by another 10%. Okay, so that's the 3rd chord. So we've got. Right after that double punch on the B chord, the B power chord, we go back to that 3rd fret, okay, and back to the beginning. And that's just the riff that you want to be able to cycle and get a little practice under these power chords. If you get a couple of open power chords, to this fretted power chord. And as mentioned, we are using this rhythmic clap with our right hand to kind of get some nice rhythm in there, get the drum effect, the snare drum effect going on. And also, we talked about muting those strings. So when I switch to that A chord, we talked about using your thumb to mute that low E string. Okay? And here's another muting technique that you want to, I want you to get familiar with. Is when you get into a power chord that's on the A string, a great muting technique is to actually use the very tip of your finger to mute that low E string. So just go ahead and fret that 2nd fret of the A string and then hit the low E string, okay? And you should be able to kind of hear it like that. It like kind of just clunks. It won't sound like that anymore, right? So, because as soon as we touch the tip of our finger to it, we can actually mute it. So what that allows you to do is when you get a fretted note or a fretted power chord in this case, you can wind up, strike with some rock and roll fury, and but have control over your chords without it sounding like a scattered mess, right? And all these random open strings getting in there and all that nasty stuff. So when you mute strings, it really can clean up your playing. And another mute that I'm doing is actually with the top part of my finger here over top of the high E string and the B string. So if I just go ahead and play through these strings, low E string is muted. I've got my A string, D string, and G string playing out that chord. And then I've got my B string and my E string muted. And that's done by this kind of bridge or rainbow effect on my first finger. Now, no worries if this is like, if you're trying to mute these strings and you're just having a heck of a time, totally normal, okay? But I just want to kind of sprinkle those in as we're going through it. So, but you could certainly like narrow the width of your strumming hand and just really hit those strings that you're fretting, and you'll still get a really great sound and you'll be able to play a recognizable version of this. So what that might look like is this. Okay, and you also notice that my right hand is really connected to the guitar there. You know, it's not real, I'm not really like opening it up and strumming a bunch, right? I've got my hand planted on that bridge. I'm lifting it up a little bit for that rhythmic smack, but that's a great tip also, whether you're playing single note, riffs. Okay, you can see my right hand is connected there. You know, or if you're soloing, again, my right hand is connected to my guitar. However, when I'm strumming, that's when my hand lets off and I can do some strumming. Okay, so again, just sprinkling in some pro tips as we go here. But yeah, that should get you pretty darn close to getting a recognizable version of I Love Rock and Roll, and just getting the power chord thing underneath your fingers and just getting that technique sounding right. And of course, the whole idea of some of those pro techniques that we're sprinkling in, like the muting, so you can really just like wind up, let loose, punch those strings, but also still have a ton of control of the notes that are coming through your amplifier or coming out of your acoustic guitar or whatever guitar you're playing. So let's just go ahead and learn another classic riff. We'll make this one a little bit faster just because I feel like we've kind of covered quite a bit already. But let's go ahead and play Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy. Now, on the original recording, they do record half a step down, but in this lesson, we're just standard tuning. So what we're gonna do is, it sounds like this. Firstly, let me just give you a little demo. Great, great riff, and it's so easy. Again, it's just 3 chords. So we're gonna start on that open A power chord. We're gonna go to a E power chord. And then we're gonna go to a 2nd fret power chord with your 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the low E string, your 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the A string. And again, if you can definitely integrate that 4th finger or slap that 3rd finger down, okay? And again, this is my preference to do 1, 3, and 4 there. And just in case you're having trouble stretching the power chord and just sticking that, I know it can be pretty challenging. 2 things that might really help you is your thumb placement, getting towards the bottom of the neck. So if I give you a camera angle on that, my thumb's not up here, right? My thumb is kind of in the middle of the neck, even a little bit lower on the neck. That's allowing me to reach my hand up and around so that I could get that position with my power chord to just kind of like have that natural stretch in it already, okay? If you are still struggling with stretching, another tip that's helped a lot of our students when we're teaching them one-to-one over the years is put your 3rd finger in first, so that the stretch finger, this guy, and then stretch your 1st finger down, Okay, so that's always something that helps, because a lot of times people get their first finger and they're having a heck of a time stretching that third finger up, but just try it the other way. Put your third finger in and then stretch your first finger down. Okay, and like I said, that thumb placement and having your hand kind of curved up and around, just to get a little bit more kind of like this motion, you know, reaching up and around so you can get that chord in place. So we've got the A power chord, E power chord to a second fret on the low E string power chord, which is an F sharp, by the way. And it's nice and punchy like that. So how are we doing that? Because it sounds a lot different when you go, right? Which sounds cool too, but if you know the track, get these really punchy chords, short and punchy. So I'm doing that in really two ways. I've kind of got my A plan and my B plan. My A plan is by letting these 3 extra fingers here just rest on the strings, not fret, because it'll start sounding like that and sounding super weird. I'm just letting go of my hand and just having a really soft hand and just dead fingers on top of those strings to just change them from this to that. Okay, so a lot of times when I show this to people for the first time, they're going like this, right? But of course you don't need nearly that much force. Just let go of your whole hand, including that chord that's being held with your first finger. Okay, and my B plan is my right hand. So just in case I don't cover all the strings or something's ringing, I can drop my right hand into the strumming area here to mute those strings as well. So once you get the muting down and all that stuff locked in, you can get a nice tight sounding version of Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy, which sounds like this. And then you're gonna drop back into that E power chord. And actually a lot of times what I do when I'm playing this is actually just keep my third finger on that 4th fret of the A string. So you can see that then I'm just activating my first finger. Because definitely for a beginner trying to switch between that E power chord and the 2nd fret power chord is definitely possible. It reminds me of a riff by Rage Against the Machine called Guerilla Radio, which goes. Right, so it's definitely possible, just a little bit challenging. So definitely utilize that. It gets you pretty much all the way there. Okay, and then in between the chords where you get that dead spot or that dead space, you can actually add in some chikas, and you know, especially when you start locking in that rhythm. So that might sound something like this. Great riff. Okay, and very finally, we gotta do some Black Sabbath. So this is a great one to learn because we've got our power chords along the A string, and we're just gonna go up the 2nd fret to the 5th fret, again on the 5th fret, up to the 7th fret. And of course, I'm sure you recognize this already, we're playing Iron Man. Okay, rock and roll fury, muting that low E string, right? Really rocking into the strings there. And this part, I would definitely suggest start out by playing your 10-9, 10-9, 10-9 with one finger, okay? And I'll explain why in a second. It'll make more sense in a second here. But yeah, one finger. And it goes exactly like that, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. And of course, we'll have the PDF and the tabs for you in the description below. But yeah, so 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. And then we're gonna go back to fifth, 5, 5, 7 fret. Okay, so 5, 5, 7, 7. Okay, and that's the riff right there. Now, when you get that more practiced, and again, I'll just play this for the time being, which will sound like this. One more time. Once you get that practice, that movement with the first finger was really challenging, and is really the way that Tony Iommi was playing this, was with a full power chord and sliding that back and forth. And you're gonna really wanna get your thumb in a secured, locked position and allow your fingers to slide back and forth on that pivot point that your thumb is creating. So what that looks like is this. Okay, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9. All right, so those are some examples of power chords. We had our open string power chords, our fretted power chords, a couple of different ways you can fret them with your third finger, with your fourth finger. And the one that I didn't actually cover was one of my favorite versions of a power chord, which I think I threw in once in a while, but where you use your first finger and your fourth finger. So, go back to the Thin Lizzy riff. So it'd be kind of like this, my first finger and my fourth finger instead of the third finger, which we talked about mostly in this lesson. So I like the fourth finger because I like to use my second and third fingers as kind of a spacer. It almost works perfectly to just perfectly space my fingers apart in the right way. And I find that this is a great way to play power chords, especially when you've got a series of power chords that are really fast. So. Right, so you can see that's all first finger and pinky finger as I'm sliding around in those power chords. So guys, that's what I had planned for you here today. Again, this is a quick and dirty version of Module 2 in my best-selling course called Stairway to Strumming. And I hope you can kind of see the power in this and how we can get the momentum rolling towards strumming full chords, switching chords seamlessly, and of course going in all the great directions that guitar can lead us, whether it's finger picking, playing solos, you know, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, all the good stuff. But I really feel like having this foundation of playing single note riffs and power chords is really, really a fun way to practice. First of all, it's kind of like taking your fingers to the gym and working out and getting all kinds of movements together that will allow you and gain you the physical ability that you'll need to go in all those wonderful directions that guitar can provide us. And again, Stairway to Strumming will get you up to that level where you're strumming chords, switching chords, playing bar chords and rhythms and strumming and all that good stuff, and just switching all the chords seamlessly and effortlessly. And of course, not only do we get you on the stairway to strumming, as the name would state, but we go in a lot of other directions with Stairway to Strumming as well. And we cover finger picking and all kinds of advanced techniques as well. But it is a really great course. It's something that I believe in a lot. And I wanted to kind of break down and give you kind of a mini course here. Again, we covered kind of the quick and dirty version of Module 1 in my last video. And here's kind of the quick and dirty version of Module 2 in this video, teaching you some riffs, teaching you some pro techniques and some power chord stuff. And I hope you get that PDF so you can download that. But what I want to tell you is that This course actually sells for $100 on my website, but right now we're putting it on sale for $47. So that's over 50% off, and you can get full access to it. It's lifetime access, and similarly to like Netflix or Amazon Prime or the Disney Channel or however you watch your TV shows, you just get a username and password. You're able to log in and view the videos and download all the course material from any device at any time. So definitely check that out, because that is a limited time offer, of course. We can't keep it for over 50% off forever. So you'll find the information on this page on how you can claim Stairway to Strumming for over 50% off. Otherwise, I hope you got some new riffs under your fingers and could see some power chords in action and how you can kind of integrate these into your playing. So do stick around. I'm going to cover some of the other modules and give you some more kind of pro tips and techniques on strumming and kind of the course overview of Stairway to Strumming. And of course, I really want to make sure you guys get a lot of value from hanging with me here. So until the next lesson, keep on ripping it up.